Hey guys, what is going on? McMole2 here. Welcome back to my channel. Today I am very excited to bring you this video. It is an in-depth review of R2D2. Big shout out and thank you to EA, Jesse, and Capital Games for getting this early access build for me and the rest of the game changers. Really appreciate this. We are super excited to be able to do this and bring this to you guys. I'm very excited to talk about R2 with you guys, talk about what his strengths and his weaknesses are, what he works with, what he doesn't do as well. But yeah, let's go ahead and look at R2D2, and then we will go ahead and discuss the rest of his kit and just how well he works with the current metas and the rest of the game. So taking a look at R2, you'll notice he's got a very high power level, just under 9600. He's one of the highest power level characters in the game. I believe he's the third highest. So he's up there with full gear. He's pretty strong on his own, so you know he's got some good stats to back him up. He's got one basic attack, two special abilities, and two unique abilities. Both of his uniques have Zetas on them. So let's start with the basic Electroshock Prod. Deals physical damage to the target enemy with an 80% chance to stun for one turn. His attack deals 30% more damage to burning targets. We'll get more into burning in a moment. Smokescreen deals, or target ally gains foresight and advantage for 2 turns. All other allies gain stealth for 2 turns. R2 gains 40% turn meter. Improvise deals special damage to all enemies and inflicts burning for 3 turns. This attack cannot be evaded. The burning effect is a 15% damage dot, where your dots usually deal 5% of the target's max health. Burning deals 50% of the target's max health, so a bit beefier dot that's going to be thrown out. And it also inflicts evasion down, so really good anti-all counter there. His 2 uniques, Combat Analysis, while R2 is active, all allies gain 10% crit chance and 10% accuracy. While R2 is active, whenever a light side ally scores a critical hit, dispels all debuffs on them. And then his other unique is called Number Crunch, and boy is this a mouthful. Huge wall of text here, does a lot of damage. At the start of the battle, R2 gains 10% max protection for each droid ally, 10% for each Republic ally, 10% health for each Rebel ally, and 10% potency for each Resistance ally. But wait, at the start of battle and whenever R2 revives, other Droid, Republic, Rebel, and Resistance allies gain 10% of R2's max protection, offense, health, and potency until he is defeated. Whew, that is a lot of text for a unique. That may be the longest ability description in the game right now. So yeah, you've got that. He's basically laid out the same way as Chirrut or Baze, where they've got a lot of uniques tacked onto them. But man, he's got some really good uniques thrown on him. So looking at his base stats, you'll notice he's a tactics-based character. He's got 24,000 health, 22,000 protection. Again, this is with no mods on him right now, so this is just the raw stats of gear, fully geared out. 157 speed, he is tied for the 8th fastest character in the game right now, 33% potency, and he is #1 of all characters with tenacity at 46%. That is a huge amount. He's really going to be able to help resist those debuffs, which I will go into more detail when I talk about his strengths and his weaknesses and his synergy with other characters. He's got some okay crit chance at 24.71%, okay physical damage. He's got some okay armor as well, 23.5%. He's got a little bit more special damage because remember, his Improvise deals special damage, but his special crit chance is very low at 11%. So he's not gonna crit a lot on his Improvise, but you're not doing Improvise for that. You're doing Improvise for the burning effect as it is. So yeah, that is his stats overall. You'll notice up in the top left, he's got half the faction tags thrown on him. He's got Droid, Republic, Rebel, and Resistance all thrown on there. He's also support base class, and he's a light side character as well. That should not come as a shock to anyone that he's a light side character. If you're surprised by that, you probably haven't seen much of the Star Wars movies, or read much of the books. But anyways, now we've covered that, let's go ahead and get into detail on his strengths and weaknesses, and we'll go ahead and close out with a final verdict of what we think about R2. Now, in terms of strengths, as you've probably already noticed, his big strength is that he can basically decimate a Zol team and their dodge meta because of his burning effect, where the other team can't dodge and they lose 15% of their max health whenever the burning debuff ticks. So you've got that. So that's a lot of damage with the burning, and it's the evasion down that just kind of shuts down your Zol teams overall, because the burning debuff is not going to critically hit or anything. It's a max health based attack, so there's really nothing they can do with stealth to avoid damage from that. So you've got that plus the evasion down. They're just kind of shut down on its own. And then you got his smoke screen, where you can basically force a taunt onto one character by having all but one character go stealth, and that character gains foresight and advantage for 2 turns. So they're going to dodge the next big attack, so you can use that together. And then you've also got the cleanse on critical hits, so you can kind of combine it. If you've got someone you think who can tank for a couple turns, and they've got a lot of debuffs on them, have that character get advantage, use him to have him do critical hits, and that character loses all those debuffs because of that cleanse. So it's a very, very helpful character there. It's kind of like the Zeta on Savage, where whenever Savage is critically hit, he loses all debuffs. It's a light side version of that, where if the character critically hits, then they lose all debuffs. So you've got that on its own. And then, of course, you just have the light side synergy with him because of his number crunch ability, where he gains max health, protection, potency, or offense based on the faction of the characters around him. So you can double dip with someone like K2SO, who's a rebel and a droid, so R2 would gain bonus protection and bonus health because of those 2 factions thrown on K2. And then R2 can then buff the other team as well, giving him max offense, potency, health, protection based on his stats. So he gets buffed from the other characters around him, and then he buffs the other characters in return. So great light side synergy there with everyone. So yeah, that's his strengths on the team. Let's go ahead and stop and take a look at the weaknesses, and it's not as bad as the strengths, but there are some glaring issues with him that could use some improvement. Now, the first issue to bring up is that his smokescreen, while it is nice with the AoE stealth and the pseudo taunt on one character, overall it's very lacking. It's just a stealth, there's nothing else to be gained there. So if you're facing an AoE heavy team, you're really not going to be doing much there. I mean, your Zol teams have a lot of AoE as it is. So really, if it could do something like give the other characters a tenacity up as well, you could be talking something in the terms of very, very strong, like his improvisability. But just having AoE stealth on the other characters just doesn't really do much for them. I know a lot of people are going to argue that if there was tenacity up, it would be kind of broken. At the same time, this guy, he's a legendary character. He needs to have legendary abilities like your Palpatine and your Grandmaster Yoda. He needs to have something that just makes him feel legendary. And that's where the other thing ties in. Palpatine, you can find Palpatine on any team. He works with any team at all in the game because of his shock and his AoE stun and just what he can bring to the table with his kit. You don't really find that in R2 because R2 feels much more like someone who's brought in just to counter the Zol meta with his anti-evasion abilities. And that's kind of the problem, is that he was brought in to feel more like a band-aid for the Zol issue than really what he should be, which is a legendary character. And, I mean, look at Yoda. Yoda can still do some great stuff. Like, he's got his AoE tenacity up, he can reduce turn meters, he can buff allies, he can steal buffs from the other team. He's got things that make him feel legendary. Granted, he got nerfed, and that's kind of taken him out of the meta so much, but he still has things there. His kit can make him feel legendary, and you just don't see that with R2, because all he seems to be doing is just your anti-evasion kind of stuff. He's got the thing where he can buff other characters, and he can cleanse on critical hits, but again, he just doesn't feel as legendary as your other 2 legendary event characters. And then another issue, I know some people won't disagree with me on this, but I feel like his burning should not be something that can be cleansed. It does a lot of damage, true, but at the same time, it just feels like it could do better if it was something that was locked in, like your armor shred from Sabine. So I know probably making it do that much damage and can't be cleansed, that's a bit strong. So let's reduce the power of the burning to, like, I don't know, from 15 down to like 10% of max health damage, but make it so that it can't be cleansed. That would make it so much better, because then all you need to do is just throw someone in on a Zol team that can cleanse, and then basically your anti-Zol is gone. It's just an easy count. You just throw in a Rex or a Chirrut or a Kenobi into that Zol team. Granted, it's not going to have a lot of synergy there, but you throw that in to cleanse the burning, and you basically have nothing there. They can still cleanse that burning, and you're back to square one, where their team is just dodging all the time, and it just kind of loses its appeal, and that's just unfortunate. But let's go ahead and, now we've discussed the weaknesses, let's go ahead and do a final verdict, what I think of this guy, and whether or not it's something you should really go for. And I don't think there's going to be too much here that's going to be surprising you guys when we go over the final score of everything. So this is just a summarization of his overall strengths and weaknesses, as we've already covered. He's great against your resolve teams, he can do the anti-dodge, he can cleanse on his critical hits, and he has fantastic synergy with your light side characters. But in terms of what's bad about him, his smoke screen, very, very underwhelming for what he is, and he's a legendary character. He just doesn't feel legendary like your kits for Emperor Palpatine or Grandmaster Yoda. It's just, he's not as legendary feeling as the other two characters. And so with that, let's go ahead and take a look at his friends and enemies, and then we'll wrap up with whether or not this is a character you guys should go for. Now, in terms of friends, you see I just list off a bunch of factions. There's just too many portraits to put in there. So all of your Republic faction, which is a brand new faction they just added to the game, all your Rebels, all your Resistance characters, all of your droids, all those because of his number crunch, where they buff R2 for certain stats, and then R2 buffs them with his max protection, offense, health, potency, all that. So he can buff them, he can buff them, they can buff him. So it's a kind of synergistic, symbiotic relationship there. But in terms of enemies, anybody who can cleanse, who can stun him, who can prevent him from moving. You've got Death Trooper in there who can daze and stun him because he's a rebel, and then you can increase cooldown, so you see Nihilus in there as well. Anyone who can cleanse his burning just kind of neutralizes his burning effect a bit, so you've got that issue. And then anyone who can just get rid of all of his buffs at the same time, so AoE dispels like B2, Echoes, Massage, anyone like that. And then just anyone who can daze, prevent him from moving is just what's going to counter him the most. So now that we've done that, let's go ahead and take a look at if you guys should really go for this character or if you should just skip out on him. And I think we already know what the answer for this one is going to be. So this is pretty obvious. He's going into the go for it category. Absolutely go for him, mostly because he is going to bring an end to your Zal meta. He's great with your light side characters. He has great synergy there, especially the listed factions before, because they can buff him and then he can buff them in return. It's a very symbiotic relationship. So all of that combined together, plus he can cleanse light side characters whenever they critically hit. He's got great synergy there. In terms of gear, he needs 5 Mark III Carbantes, 4 Mark V stun guns. However, 2 of those Mark V stun guns are once he hits gear 11. So you really only need 2 stun guns to get him up to gear 11. You need 3 Carbantes to get him there. And then, of course, you see he needs a lot of the Mark III projector lenses and a lot of the Mark IV laptops. The laptops come from your strength challenge gear anyways, but those tenacity discs, you need them. That's where he gets most of his tenacity from, is from that section of gear. So get that saved up for him, get that ready to go. You'll see he also needs 2 of the Mark 7 shield generators, 2 Mark 6 detonators. Those come as tank raid gear, so get that all saved up for him. Get him ready to get geared up as soon as you get him, because again, he's such a good character to throw into the meta, changes the meta a lot. So get him geared up, get him out there, because you really want him on your team full of light side characters. So yeah guys, that's it for my R2 review. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. If you have questions, think I should review someone next, post it down below. Let me know what you guys think. As it is guys, I will talk to you all later. I hope you all have enjoyed this video as much as I enjoyed testing him out, getting to see how he works. And of course, I am working on a raid video with him and clones. Everybody's been requesting it. It's coming. Don't worry. But as always, guys, thanks for watching. Feel free to like, share, and subscribe for more content in the future. And I will talk to you guys later.